Now, we begin this hour with a look at former pro athletes trying to change the conversation around cannabis. 19 states have legalized recreational cannabis use, and also almost 40 states have cleared it for medical use. Yet it still carries a stigma. Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receiver Calvin Johnson and former offensive lineman Rob Sims are trying to change that. They were teammates of mine with the Detroit Lions. They launched their own cannabis brand to help educate and promote wellness. We met the two at their facility, their Michigan cultivation facility, and a conversation about ongoing stigma and where they see the industry in the future. Do you believe that athletes, not just in the NFL, but across all professional sports, do you believe that they smoke?
100%, absolutely.
Calvin Johnson understands that football changed his life.
From the 17, looking for Megatron, and it's a touchdown.
But the 36-year-old NFL Hall of Famer says cannabis helped change how he now lives his life.
To the NFL, college football, and all major sports, including the Olympics, it's also time we recognize the potential of phytomedicines, plant medicines, to aid and improve the mental health and quality of life for so many.
Some of the best players in the world.
I'm not going to name any names, but some of the best players in the world.
That's a fact. That's a fact. I mean, listen, at one point, you're the best receiver in the world. It's not even a question.
See, all I got to say is you're the best in the business. Yeah, right. I've been trying to keep quiet, stay political about this.
And you were a cannabis user.
Yes.
And you weren't a pothead. I don't think anybody in the world would describe Calvin Johnson as that. When somebody's like, well, when I think of weed usage, I think of this person.
We need two big pieces, man.
That right there, I think that's what continues the taboo and the stigma. These images that have been burned into our minds of what a user of cannabis looks like.
It's hard to rehab from that.
It's hard to rehab from that.
All right, so these are the babies?
These are the babies.
At this cannabis grow facility, 1 hour outside of Detroit, retired NFL stars Calvin Johnson and Rob Sims are trying to help erase the stigma of cannabis use.
We harvest them in about 63 days or so.
63 days.
Yeah, we harvest them, and then they go into our dry room, and then from there it's probably another 10 or so days that they're ready to go. Yep.
Rotate that to the right.
Primitive, their cannabis company, is in the early stages of their partnership with Harvard University to help study the causes and effects of the traumatic brain injury known as CTE and help those suffering from chronic pain. So as we were sitting in the locker room back in Detroit, would you have thought that you guys would be the leaders of a cannabis brand?
I wasn't thinking about cannabis when I was in the locker room. It was not even on the horizon. They don't know the healing powers of the plant.
Both Johnson and Sims view cannabis as a healing agent, and they see their company and its product as a potential alternative to opioid pain medications, which have been abused in the U.S. for years. According to figures released by the CDC, last year, drug overdose deaths topped 100,000 for the first time in American history. And more than 3/4 of those overdose deaths were from opioids.
Cannabis is not only a potential treatment for chronic pain, it's a very effective treatment for chronic pain that millions of people are currently employing.
Harvard Medical School instructor and physician in Massachusetts General Hospital, Dr. Peter Grinspoon.
More and more studies are coming in. A lot of them just hadn't been funded by the U.S. government because of the war on drugs. They only studied harms and not benefits. There are millions of people that are using it for chronic pain, and they're reporting an improved quality of life over opiates.
I remember having doctors prescribe me like Vicodin. I remember the directions saying, you know, take when you have pain. But here I am, a football player who's torn my pec, and I just thought it wasn't good for me to sit at home and pop pills.
I initially started using cannabis in college, but really didn't become a frequent user until I got into the NFL when the injuries started to pile up. And that was really what it was for. I mean, it helped with the sleep, but really just to overall improve my quality of life. I had to be there for whether it was my family, my teammates, you know, and the weight that we have to carry, you know, and to be able to compartmentalize, you know, it was something that helped me, you know, be able to de-stress.
I'm curious to see if you can recall the injuries you have had in your career.
We've all had concussions. We played this great sport, you know, both shoulders, no surgeries there, just injured shoulders, obviously fingers, you know, ugly fingers, surgeries. Knee, just one surgery there, but sprains in both of the knees, ankles, sprains, all the way down, contusions, you know, just the, you know, normal life of a football player.
The NFL seems to be listening. Earlier this year, the league donated $500,000 to UC San Diego's Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research to study whether the plant can be used to help athletes manage pain. Johnson and Sims both believe their product will help improve lives.
That came out really good.
Yeah, that's probably the best I've ever seen us do that right now.
Why do you believe cannabis can be a great form of healing?
For me personally, I've dealt with opioids, and for me, just a sense of balance is just off. I try to stay away from anything synthetic.
They dry for about 10 days or so.
You know, and cannabis is a natural substance.
When it comes to the NBA, NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, across all the sports, really, there have been a lot of athletes coming out and being very honest about their cannabis use. Why do you believe that is?
You know, I just think it's a new day, right? Cannabis has become legal in these different, states, and it's progressing to the rest of the country. The conversation has begun to change, and it's become more acceptable. I think all athletes see it as an avenue for an alternative healing other than opioids.
Most of America's top sports leagues have relaxed their cannabis restrictions. The NFL still tests, but you won't be suspended, only fined. The NBA has extended its policy of not randomly testing in season for cannabis. Major League Baseball removed cannabis from its banned substance list. Several former players and athletes, have been operating in this space, including ex-NFL running back Ricky Williams, retired NBA players Al Harrington and John Sally.
I think the key here is that, like a number of other mood-altering drugs that are out there, including alcohol, I think there's a time and a space and a place. And for these guys, what they're saying is, you know what? This is in the realm of our healing process.
Right.
And keeping it in that realm, I think for a lot of people is something that they feel, hey, I can deal with it when I look at it from that aspect.
So, I have Tourette's, right? I've been public about that, and I just tried cannabis for the first time.
How was it?
A couple of months ago. I'm still trying to find an amount that works.
Okay.
But I didn't try it until now because of the stigma.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think this story is important. I felt like I shouldn't do it, or I should maybe not admit that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I did it in a state where it's legal, California. But with my Tourette's, I was trying to find something that maybe just softened me a bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like quieted me just a bit.
The key words are alternative method. I can be honest and tell you I've had close to 10 surgeries and procedures because of football. And every time it was pain medication that was handed to me.
Yep.
And I remember there was a moment in my career where after I ran out and I didn't need it, my body craved it. And I thought, I need to do something different. And all the while, Calvin Johnson, my teammate, he was saying, Nate, I don't want to give my body something that's going to damage me from the inside out.
That's right.
And then create a dependency when I'm done playing.
Bingo.
And that's why he got into this space. And I think
an
just creating the education is important.
It's an important space.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Thanks for the story.